Dear Evil Engineer, after the first full financial year trading as an evil limited company, I celebrated by awarding myself a bonus and buying an absolutely giant shark tank. The next year, I bought sharks for it. It has served me well in the 3 years since, although, as it turns out, A, sharks take quite a deal of maintenance, B, my water bills have run out of control, and C, I get squeamish at the sight of people being ripped apart and eaten. I consulted with a feng shui expert who told me that the position of my tank is creating an overabundance of qi, elevating negative emotional responses. Well, that would explain why I pushed her in. Next, I consulted with an interior designer who recommended I replace the shark tank with a bold and colorful statement ornament to lift my mood and enhance the space. Therefore, I am considering keeping the huge acrylic tank and filling it with something more cheerful and lower maintenance than sharks, but similarly deadly. Balls. Specifically ball pit balls. My tank is cylindrical with a radius of 15 meters and height of 10 meters. Can I fill it with enough balls to crush a person to death? Please help me, Evil Engineer. I don't know what to do with all this excess chi. Yours, a negative and emotional villain.
Dear villain, I applaud your decision to part with your sharks, having come to the realization that they do not suit your lifestyle. So many villains at the start of their careers are under great pressure from the industry to prove themselves with conspicuous consumption of shark tanks, flying monkeys, scantily clad bodyguards, and designer disfigurements. Very insensitive. Execution by ball pit, however, is an innovation to be encouraged. You may be familiar with the lingering phenomenon of grain engulfment, which occurs when a person becomes trapped in a large quantity of grain and, unless immediately rescued, quickly becoming completely buried due to the suction-like action of the mass of grain. Engulfment victims can suffocate within minutes. Although grain and balls behave differently, e.g. ball pit balls are unlikely to cause suffocation, as packed spheres touch only at a point, allowing airflow. They can both be modelled as granular materials. One of the quirks of granular materials is that when filling a cylindrical container, pressure at the base stops increasing around the point the level of the material reaches a height greater than the cylinder's diameter, the Janssen effect. This is thanks to grains jamming to form supportive arches, in turn supported by friction between grains and the walls of the container. As your tank is 30 meters in diameter and just 10 meters in height, however, let's disregard this effect. Let's also model the balls as incompressible or crush resistant, as the marketing says. Historical records of execution by crushing suggest that 300 kilos of mass applied over the cross-sectional plane of an adult human body is sufficient to guarantee death in around 15 minutes. So let's work with that figure. What we want to calculate is the minimum lethal depth for a person to be submerged in ball pit balls. Let's consider a victim lying on their back or front, the positions for which more weight is required to exert a deadly pressure, and approximate their cross-section as a rectangle, 1.65 meters in length and 0.4 meters in width, an area of 0.66 square meters. Neglecting the Janssen effect, the weight applied to the person is directly proportional to the height of the filling, and thus directly proportional to the mass of ball pit balls in a rectangular prism, extending vertically from the person's sized base. A standard ball pit ball weighs 6.8 grams and is 6.5 centimeters in diameter, density of 47 kilograms per cubic meter. You would thus need 44,117 balls to provide 300 kilograms of mass and that lethal pressure. If it was possible to pack those balls perfectly, they would fill just 6.4 cubic meters. However, we can expect a packing density of around 0.6 for balls poured randomly into a tank. Hence, the actual volume containing those 44,117 balls is 10.7 cubic meters. Divide that volume by the cross-sectional area of the prone victim, and we get a minimum depth of 16.2 meters, around the height of 5 African elephants standing on top of one another. So, it would appear that a 10-meter deep tank is not enough to guarantee that the typical adult will be crushed to death after sinking to the bottom of your ball pit. However, this varies depending on factors such as the shape of the victim, friction between the balls and walls, and how the balls deviate from the ideal sphere we modelled them as. For instance, if the weight of the balls crushes the balls at the bottom flat, victims would not sink all the way to the bottom. There is no need to purchase a new tank, however. With some adjustments, you can ensure that your victims will be lethally engulfed. Although grain would be a classic, cost-effective choice of medium, trying retaining the cheerful aesthetic of a ball pit by switching the balls for denser solid balls, such as bouncy rubber balls, the budget option, marbles, or billiard balls. Of course, if you are wedded to the idea of a deadly ball pit, remember that any victim dropped inside will be unable to climb out and will eventually die of thirst at the bottom, out of sight and out of mind. Yours, the Evil Engineer. P.S. Remember to place an auspicious crystal statue of a 9-legged frog above your viewing platform. This will give you something else to look at if you get bored with staring at the ball pit.